welcome to Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. Oh man, I don't even know what show this is this week so far. We've just been banging shows out left and right because I realized doing these Royal Rumble reviews, it wouldn't make much sense to do Royal Rumble reviews after the 2015 Royal Rumbles happened. So I'm trying to get them all done now. So good luck to me. I'm watching Royal Rumbles left and right, right and left, up and down, backwards and forwards. Really, backwards and forwards makes the Royal Rumble really interesting. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing. Excited for the Royal Rumble coming up. It is my favorite pay-per-view of the year. So watching these Royal Rumbles, even the bad Royal Rumbles are kind of like pizza. Even when they're bad, they're still pretty good. So, hope you guys are enjoying the Royal Rumble reviews. Wow, what did you think about that commentating change that WWE just did? Booker T to Monday Night Raw. Let me tell you how much of a fan of Booker T I am. I'd rather listen to a Roddy Piper podcast than hear Booker T on commentary. Sorry, Booker was great in the ring. That best of 7 series that he had with Christopher Benoit was phenomenal. Let's jump right into it. Royal Rumble number 4. Royal Rumble number 4 to me is my favorite Royal Rumble for the only real reason because I was there. That's right, I was actually in the Miami Arena for Royal Rumble number 4. At this point in time in my life, I was going to a bunch of WWE shows every time they were down in Miami, and I'd say they were down in Miami at least once every 5 months, every 6 months. Usually I was in either the second or third row at the Miami Arena. This one we had a little bit higher seats. It was in the first level, not ground floor, but first level. Man, it was so awesome. It was just, as a kid, I say kid, it was probably middle school when it was happening in Miami Arena. The Desert Storm, the first Gulf War had just started. Watching the event, live, you don't even grasp what's going on really, at least to me at that point in time. I didn't really grasp what I was watching, but, here I was. I saw the Ultimate Warrior lose the WWF World Heavyweight Championship to Sergeant Slaughter. Of course, the American turncoat Sergeant Slaughter at this point in time. Now, the thing about this, okay, the Ultimate Warrior loses the world title to Sergeant Slaughter. Now, this is back in a time when titles didn't just change hands. It was a rare thing to see a champion lose. And let's see, at this point in time, Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan were the only 2 people to ever hold the WWF Championship 2 times. So let that sink in for everybody that's a little bit younger. That means, nowadays, you got John Cena, who's held the championship, I think, 15 times. By this next Royal Rumble, he's got a chance for 16, tying Ric Flair's record. So this is a big deal. The Ultimate Warrior has lost to Sergeant Slaughter thanks to the WWE Hall of Fame inductee this year, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Woo, yeah! Dig it! So, big thing to see. I told you guys I wasn't going to talk a lot about what was going on outside, the actual pay-per-views, because I was primarily just watching the actual Royal Rumble matches themselves. But I did kind of skim through this a little bit more because I realized I have not seen this Royal Rumble since I was actually in Miami live. So it was kind of cool to see that. And of course I was looking in the background trying to find myself in the crowd, a la, Edge and Christian at their WrestleMania 5, which, wow, strange enough, that's the same year, actually. It's WrestleMania 5 had just happened in March, and then this is January's Royal Rumble. So this is all around the same time period. So I guess I'm either the same age as Edge and Christian, or maybe just a year or two younger. Never really put that together. But One thing we saw on this one was Dustin Rhodes and Dusty Rhodes were tag teaming, and at this point in time, Dusty Rhodes, I guess, was fed up with the polka dots. He was on his way out of the WWF, so he wasn't wearing the polka dots at this point in time. Also, you had Virgil. That was part of that match. It was the Rhodes, Dusty and Dustin, father and son, versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and his tag team partner and bodyguard, Virgil. After the match, Virgil turns on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and they do a battle for the next couple months over the $1 Million Championship. In this one, you had number one person that entered the Royal Rumble, the same guy, the first guy to ever enter the Royal Rumble, the very first Royal Rumble, and that was, of course, the Bret Hitman Hart. And the number two was Dino Bravo. Outside the ring, we mentioned it before, in this one, if you pay close attention outside the ring, you're going to see a young Shane McMahon as the referee. And you also, if you're listening to it on pay-per-view, this is the first Royal Rumble without Jesse the Body Ventura being there. Roddy Piper is taking over for Jesse the Body at this Royal Rumble. Man, I'm sure you guys have heard, what I think about Roddy Piper and his new podcast, but man, Piper was not good on commentary, which surprises me, looking back, when you think of Roddy Piper, he's a talker, gift of gab, but the gift of gab did not transcend to the announce booth, the commentating booth. I guess a lot like how I see Booker T nowadays. But, so Roddy Piper's there. One thing just annoys me, and I don't know if Piper's doing it to be funny. I don't know if he just legitimately did not know the wrestler's name. But the entire time, he calls Paul Roma Romeo. He keeps saying Romeo, wherefore out there, Romeo. Every time Roma does something, he says Romeo. And it's funny because Gorilla Monsoon, his broadcast partner, every time Piper calls him Romeo, I don't know if it's Gorilla trying to get him, to understand that his name's not Romeo, that it's actually Roma, or I don't know. I don't know what Gorilla's take is on this, but every time Piper sells Roma as Romeo, Gorilla immediately says something with Roma's name. So that's kind of it was a big distraction for me for some reason. I don't know if it's my current dislike of Roddy Piper and his new podcast, Piper's Pit, on podcast 1 or what, but that was a big distraction. There was oh god, this is so disgusting. I'm looking at my notes here. I'm looking through my notes. I wrote down that there was an irony to have Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado versus the Undertaker. That's a low blow. But yeah, that's kind of a harsh thing. Now, this other note on here, this was actually the second smallest ever Royal Rumble. The largest Royal Rumble, of course, was 40. Most Royal Rumbles are 30. The smallest ever, the first one, was 20. This Royal Rumble actually only had 29 competitors, and I'm not saying, there was a woman involved, because there's not a woman involved at this point in time. But this one only had 29 competitors. Turns out, going back to the earlier thing where the Macho Man Randy Savage had hit Ultimate Warrior with his scepter, causing him to lose the title to Sergeant Slaughter earlier in the night, Macho Man Randy Savage, who was supposed to be in this Royal Rumble, did not appear. The Macho Man did not appear, did not answer. I believe it was number 18, did not come down to ringside. And so it turned out there was only 29 entrants in this Royal Rumble because the Macho Man didn't show up. A couple other little interesting notes about this Royal Rumble. Has anybody got the WWE Network? You can get it for $9.99. WWE Network's got a show on there called Legends House. It stars Roddy Piper, Tony Atlas, Mean Gene Okerlund, Mount South Jimmy Hart, Howard Finkel, Hacksaw Duggan, Hillbilly Jim, and Pat Patterson. This pay-per-view, you can actually see every one of the guys from the Legends House except Hillbilly Jim. Hillbilly Jim's the only person you will not find on this pay-per-view from the WWE Network's Legends House. So I thought that was kind of interesting, trivial Trivial Pursuit, if it ever makes it to the game board, or if WWE ever produces their own Trivial Pursuit game. What pay-per-view featured all of the WWE legends from the WWE Network Legends House, except for Hillbilly Jim? And it would be right here, Royal Rumble number 4 from the Miami Arena, the one that your humble host was a part of, that he was there. He got to watch it live. I think every one of these, I've been talking about different tag teams and tag team partners, unified teams that were actually inside the Rumble. This one featured 3 tag teams that actually ended up being inside the ring at the exact same time. Power and Glory, which is, of course, Paul Roma, not Romeo Hot Rod, but Paul Roma, and Hercules Hernandez. The LOD, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, Hall of Famers, the Hawk and the Animal. What a rush! And the other tag team that was in there at the same time was Demolition. Not Axe and Smash, though. It was actually Smash and Crush. And those of you that know a little bit about wrestling history will know that Axe suffered an injury for a little bit. They brought Crush in as a substitute. And then once Axe returned, instead of just eliminating Crush, what they did was they used the Freebird rule, where the 3 people could successfully defend the tag team championship. Any 2 of the 3 could, as well as anytime they were tag teaming, you would have all 3 members of Demolition show up down the ringside, and of course 2 of them would go in the tag match, and the other one acted as a valet manager. What's Paulie dangerously call himself? An advocate. So those are the 3 tag teams that were in this one. Big thing, this was the Undertaker's first ever Royal Rumble. First time the Dead Man ever came into the Royal Rumble, and he was actually eliminated by one of those 3 tag teams. Anybody want to guess? Alright, let's go ahead and just say it's the face tag team of those 3. Power and Glory and Demolition, obviously the heels. LOD, the Legion of Doom, the face tag team, were the ones, they were the first people to ever eliminate The Undertaker from a Royal Rumble. So another trivial answer for you. If anybody ever asks you obscure wrestling questions, or if you're ever stuck playing an obscure wrestling question game, there's the question you can ask. What tag team eliminated The Undertaker from his first appearance at a Royal Rumble? And the answer will be the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. A lot of talk about the record of Rick the Model Martel. Rick Martel was actually in this Royal Rumble for 53 minutes. Quite a feat, especially compared to the other Rumbles that we've seen so far. This one being the 4th one. Rick Martel goes 53 minutes. And that is the one strong point of the Gorilla Monsoon and Roddy Piper tandem, is they do point out Rick Martel's 53 minutes. And I say it's a strong point. It's Piper literally asking every person, every time a new competitor enters, what's Rick Martel's at? What's Rick Martel's number at? Or the other thing that Piper just annoyed me at, and man, I'm anti-Piper lately, but the other thing Piper really annoyed me at was it seemed like he might have had a stopwatch in front of him, but he would almost say it precisely. He'd go, there's got to be another guy getting ready to come in the ring, right, Gorilla? Excuse me. And for some reason, the clock would automatically pop on 10, and Gorilla would be like, yep, there's the clock, Roddy. So that was another just annoying thing. Historical Royal Rumble, when you look at this, you have an former ECW champion in this one. You have a former AWA champion, a former WCW champion, and a former WWF champion, all inside this Royal Rumble. ECW was Shane Douglas. AWA was Rick Martel. WCW and WWF, okay, this is a little bit of a stretch. I kind of cheated on this one, but you've got Hulk Hogan in there, and Hulk Hogan, of course not at this point in time, but in the future, is you know what? I can scratch that. The former WCW champion, the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, former National Wrestling Alliance champion. Of course, he beat Ric Flair way back in the day. I think that was 1984, and held the title for 13 days before losing back to the Nature Boy. So, so you got former ECW champion, the franchise Shane Douglas, former AWA champion, the model Rick Martel, former WCW/NWA world champion, the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, and then, of course, the former WWF champion, the immortal Hulk Hogan. Talking about Hulk Hogan ends up winning this Royal Rumble. This turns out to be his second Royal Rumble that he wins in a row. He is in there last against the Earthquake, and of course this is after the Earthquake has smashed him not too long before this on the Brother Love show, knocking Hulk Hogan out of wrestling for a while. I was actually one of those little Hulkamaniacs that wrote him a letter and got a nice postcard in return, hand stamped by Hulk Hogan. Well, hand stamped by somebody who had a Hulk Hogan stamp. But anyway, I think I still have that postcard actually somewhere around. Actually, I'm pretty positive that I do. But Hulk Hogan and the Earthquake were the last two in this one. Hogan ends up no-selling the Earthquake on some of the avalanches, some of the Earthquake splashes, and then dumps the Earthquake over the top rope pretty easily. And then this one, of course, is starting to get the build for WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan after this one holding up a couple signs from the fans. One sign I think is pretty famous because it ends up in Hulk Hogan's entrance video is him holding like a sheet. It says Hulkamania will live forever. That comes from this Royal Rumble. Also, during this one that sets up the WrestleMania match, later on with Sergeant Slaughter, Hulk Hogan's holding up different signs from the fans. One talking about Saddam Hussein and the Gulf War. Hogan gets the American flag. It seems like from a fan, but it really seems like it was kind of a plant because it's on a long pole. Hogan grabs that American flag and, of course, waves it around the ring, showing the world that Hulk Hogan is the All-American that should be in the next opponent for Sergeant Slaughter. So, what you gonna do, brother, when Hulk Hogan comes down on you and wins the Royal Rumble number 4 from the Miami Arena? Brother.
Hey everybody, we just want to say again, thank you for listening to Rocky Top Wrestling's Drunken Wrestling Review. We appreciate all the comments, we appreciate all the subscriptions. Of course, by saying that we appreciate it, I actually mean I hope that you guys one day will actually subscribe to us and actually leave comments for us. We want to hear your thoughts about it. We know that one of our shows have gotten like 80 plus listeners, so I'm not sure how many times my grandmother and my mother listened to the show, but it must have been a lot. But there were some other people out there that seems like they might have listened to it as well. The coming weeks, I'm going to be talking to my alleged partner here on Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. That's right, the man who came up with the Rocky Top Wrestling name, the young gun, the king of Carter County, the librarian, Cody Isis. That's right, Cody Isis will be on the show with me. We're going to be knocking back some beers and talking about professional wrestling, as well as we're going to keep reviewing the Royal Rumbles. We've reviewed a few of them already. I don't plan on stopping reviewing the Royal Rumbles until we get them all done. So again, everybody, we do appreciate you listening to Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. We will hear from you. We will see you all very soon. Thanks again. Good night.